Have you ever just looked at the world around you and wondered, how do we even begin to make sense of it all? All the people, the trends, the chaos? Well, it's not guesswork. Sociologists have this amazing set of tools they use to systematically figure out how our world works. And today, we're going to open up that toolkit and see what's inside.
So that's the big question, isn't it? How do you take something as complex and, frankly, as messy as human behavior and study it in a way that actually gives you clear, reliable answers? Well, they've developed some pretty clever ways to do just that. Let's dive in.
All right, so here's our game plan. We'll start with the idea of the toolkit itself. Then we'll check out 4 key tools: the magnifying glass, the snapshot, the deep dive, and even a time machine. And stick around because at the end, we'll see how the real pros put it all together.
I want you to think of a sociologist as a kind of master crafts person. They don't just have one hammer they use for everything. Nope, they've got a whole kit. And the real skill, the real art, is knowing exactly which tool to pull out for which job.
Okay, first tool out of the bag, the magnifying glass. This is the case study, and it's all about picking one thing, one group, one event, one place, and just zooming in to see it in incredible detail.
Yeah, the motto for a case study is go deep, not wide. So instead of trying to understand thousands of people at once, a researcher might focus on, say, a single school or one specific factory floor to learn everything they can about that one particular case.
Here's a fantastic real-world example. When Sally Westwood wanted to understand female factory workers, she didn't just mail them a survey. No way. She spent a full year working alongside them, observing their lives, becoming a part of their world. That's how you get the rich, juicy details you could never get from a distance.
But, every tool has its trade-offs. The huge strength of a case study is its depth, what we call high validity. You really get the why behind what people are doing. The big limitation, though, it takes a ton of time. And it's really hard to say that what you learned about one small group is true for everybody else. It's tough to generalize.
So, if the case study is our magnifying glass, our next tool is the opposite. It's a wide-angle camera. We're talking about the social survey. The whole point is to capture a quick snapshot of a huge population all at one moment in time.
The official name for this is a cross-sectional survey, which makes sense, right? You're taking a cross-section, a slice of society to see what's happening right now. The focus here is all about getting that big, broad picture.
And you've definitely seen this one before. The ultimate example is the national census. It's that massive survey that gets sent to pretty much every single home, giving us a giant data set that paints a picture of the entire country.
And here's that trade-off again. The strength is reliability. Because everyone gets the exact same questions, you can compare the answers easily and make big generalizations. But the flip side is that it can be a little shallow, It gives you a great picture, but maybe not the whole story. And it often misses people who are hard to reach.
Okay, our third tool, ethnography, takes the idea of a deep dive and just cranks it up to 11. This isn't just about watching a group from the sidelines. It's about full immersion. It's about trying to understand their world from the inside out.
Yeah, people often call this field work, and it is intense. The researcher doesn't just visit, they live, work, and participate in the daily routines of their subjects. It's all about getting that unparalleled insider's view of how a group sees the world.
So we've gone deep with case studies, and we've gone wide with surveys. But what if you want to see how things change over time? Well, for that, you need a totally different tool. You need what's basically a time machine for sociologists, the longitudinal study.
Now, the absolute key to a longitudinal study is that you follow the exact same group of people for a really long time. We're talking years, even decades. This is what lets you actually watch trends as they happen and see how people's lives change.
And they do this in what they call waves. So you have wave 1, the first survey. Then, 5 years later, you go back to those same people for wave 2. Then 10 years later, wave 3, and so on. See? You're not just taking a static photo, you're creating a movie.
The power of this is incredible. You get to see the movie, not just the snapshot. But wow, the challenges are huge. These studies are incredibly expensive. They take a massive long-term commitment, and they have one giant weak spot, something called sample attrition. Sample attrition is just a fancy term for people dropping out. Over the years, people move, they lose interest, or they might pass away.
The longer a study goes on, the more your original group shrinks, and that makes it really tough to know if your results are still accurate. So, we've got all these different tools, and every single one has its own strengths and its own limitations. So what do the best sociologists do? Well, they don't just pick one. They get creative and combine them, using a kind of master technique to get a much fuller picture.
And that technique is called triangulation. The idea is brilliant but simple. Think of a tripod. One leg is wobbly, two legs are wobbly, but with three, you've got a stable base. That's triangulation. You use multiple methods so the strengths of one cancel out the weaknesses of another.
Here's how it could work. You might start with a big survey that's highly reliable, but people might not be telling you the whole truth. So you add a second method, like direct observation, to see what people actually do. You combine what they say with what you see, and bam, you get much, much closer to the real story.
And we see this in some of the most famous studies. To understand the Moonies, Eileen Barker used participant observation, but also questionnaires and in-depth interviews. Or when Lindsay Hayes studied girls' friendships, she observed them, sure, but she also got a hold of their personal diaries and the notes they passed in class. They combined tools for a richer, more accurate result.
And really, that's the main takeaway. No single tool is perfect, but by using them together, by triangulating, sociologists can cross-check their findings, cover their blind spots, and build a way more robust and trustworthy understanding of our world.
So I'll leave you with a final thought. Look around at your world, your job, your community, your family. If I handed you this toolkit right now, what would you study? And which tools would you combine to really get the full story?